Hi, welcome to this video today, which is on the subject of how to control your emotions while trading. Now, we all know as traders, we have to trade with discipline to achieve long-term success. Most traders fail. In fact, a lot of traders know what they should do, but they just can't do it. You get other traders who've traded with discipline for a good while, then suddenly discipline breaks down, they blow up their accounts. Is it all just to do with our emotions and our brain? No, it isn't. Now, in terms of this, I want to explain why. I make reference to an excellent book. It comes from John Coates, an ex-trader, and it's called The Hour Between the Dog and the Wolf. And in the book, it outlines how you change when you're trading, and your body and brain both change. Okay, so he looks at basically hormones within you that reinforce basically you not being able to trade with discipline. So we need to look at the nervous pathways within the body as well. The book is absolutely fascinating. I just want to play a quick intro to John Coates and his work. Now here he's discussing corporate traders in banks, okay? But the same things happen to just ordinary retail traders as well. This intro is only about a minute 30 long, and then we'll be back to discuss.
I used to be a trader. I traded derivatives for Goldman Sachs and then ran a derivative trading desk for Deutsche Bank on Wall Street for about 13 years. And during that period, I've observed in myself or felt in myself this change taking place when I was making above average profits or above average losses. And I noticed it amongst my fellow traders as well. It's something I thought that economics had not focused on. There's a tendency in economics to think that financial risk-taking is a purely cognitive activity. They used to think that cognitive activity was purely rational. Behavioral economics came along and said that no, it's more quirky than that. It's not necessarily irrational, but it doesn't operate according to the model of rational choice. What none of them had done, as far as I'm concerned, is actually observe what was happening to traders when they were caught up in a winning streak or a bubble, or on the other hand, a losing streak and a crash, because it's a fundamental piece of scientific data that's been overlooked that traders change. You feel this narcotic effect when you're making a lot of money and expecting a large bonus, and that shifts your preference for risk. You start taking much more risk with worsening risk-reward trade-offs, and you eventually blow up. So we've been trying to identify the molecules and the nervous pathways in the body that contribute to this kind of shift. Well, I would call it a transformation, but in more technical terms, that would account for these shifts in risk preferences, which we think destabilize the financial markets. Because when we talk about testosterone, it's really just one molecule in a body-wide preparation for competition. When we talk about the stress response, we could talk about adrenaline and cortisol, which is a steroid hormone. But they're really just two players in this body-wide preparation for an emergency. So we think that these two physiological reactions to above-average opportunity or threat are shifting risk preferences and not causing financial market instability so much as exaggerating it.
I will come back after that short clip there of John Coates. Now, in terms of the two main steroid hormones that come into play when we're trading and interact with the brain, they are testosterone and cortisol. Now, we're going to discuss them in a little bit of detail, the impact they have, then how to mitigate their impact on our trading. Now, in terms of both steroid hormones, they're essential in our evolutionary history for the survival of the species and to protect ourselves from physical threats. Today, most of the threats we face are psychological, but the responses are the same. Now, in terms of the impact of testosterone, we're just going to discuss what impact it has. And again, I want to just show a quick clip of John Coates discussing the winning effect. Here it is. It's only about 45 seconds, then we'll be back to discuss.
We were initially looking for what might be called the molecule of irrational exuberance, the chemical in our body that causes traders during a bubble or a winning streak to take too much risk. We are applying a model from animal behavior called the winner effect, in which an animal that has won a competition is more likely to win the next round of competition. It's a very robust statistical finding. They wondered what mechanism was driving it. When they looked into it, they found that rising levels of testosterone were causing the animal to take more risks, to become more confident. It also increased their hemoglobin and thus their blood's capacity to carry oxygen. So we just applied that to the financial markets very mechanically. So it was already a beautiful model, robust model. And what we found was very good preliminary evidence, A, that the winner effect does exist in humans as well. In fact, they've observed it in athletes, so we know it exists in humans. We observed it in traders. And we found that it was, in fact, shifting their risk preferences.
I'll go back after that short clip there. Now, in terms of testosterone, it has a huge influence in traders, okay? Now, first of all, let's take the winning effect. As Coates said, it's when an animal wins a physical confrontation, there's a high probability he's going to win the next one. And that could go on for a sequence of a few wins, okay? But eventually the animal becomes overconfident, takes reckless risks and loses. Now, testosterone is in play, okay? Now, in terms of that example, it's also been researched in humans as well. I think the first research, he made reference to athletes. I think it was in tennis players. And after you win one set, what's the probability of winning the next set? Now, in terms of in traders, how does testosterone come into play? Well, in terms of the winning effect, money, has been proven, is so important to us today, or most people, that it generates a testosterone response. So let's say, just an example of a trader winning and giving back their profits. Let's say you win a trade, you feel good, dopamine is released from the brain, testosterone levels rise, and as you keep winning, testosterone levels rise further. Then what happens? A lot of traders, when they've had a big winning streak, what do? They give back all their profits and more. Why? Because testosterone has instilled overconfidence. Now, in terms of the markets, you'll see a lot of traders personalize the market. It's a battle. Now, testosterone is obviously designed, or it's there within us for physical confrontation. And, traders see the market as a physical opponent very often. When they lose, they want their money back. They feel they're in a battle with the market. They take reckless risks. And it's a bit like Warren Buffett's old saying, they just dig themselves a bigger hole. So testosterone is within us and it has a big, big impact. Now, in terms of the other steroid hormone I want to introduce is cortisol. In terms of cortisol, has a big impact on traders as well. Now, in terms of cortisol, it is a steroid hormone that helps us when we're in danger. Okay, now obviously in evolutionary history, it helped us survive physical threats. Now, in terms of cortisol, it's extremely dangerous in trading, but it also can wreck your physical health as well. Now, just before I talk about cortisol, I just want to make reference to another couple of great books you can read. I've already talked about John Coates' book, but two other great books in terms of the brain-body connection are by Robert Sapolsky. One is called The Trouble with Testosterone, and the other is called Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Now, a zebra doesn't get an ulcer, but he's in danger every day of losing his life. Okay, now we do get ulcers. We're not in danger of losing our lives most days, but cortisol comes into play and gives us ulcers. Now, in terms of why, you probably guessed why already. Now, I've written up some points on a storyboard in relation to this and the actual impact it has on your brain. Okay, now in terms of this summary, it's only about 45 seconds long. Just take a look at it, then we'll be back to discuss in more detail. Welcome back after that short clip. Now, in terms of cortisol, imagine if you lived in more primitive times, you were in the woods, and then suddenly you see a saber-toothed tiger lurking in the distance. Cortisol levels would rise, so would your stress levels. You'd either get away or there'd be a physical confrontation where testosterone would kick into play, but it would all be over pretty quickly. Now, in terms of trading, cortisol comes into play and it can remain elevated for long periods of time. It could have a really damaging impact on your physical health, of course, and also your trading decisions. You've got to remember your short-term attention span is up, and you find a lot of traders, when they get stressed out, they're in a losing period, they're always watching price. Also, when they're watching price, they're always wanting to snatch profits quickly to get, some sort of comfort from the markets. Very often, though, they won't be able to do anything at all, just let a loss run. I'm sure everyone has had periods where they've been really stressed out. You know how it can impact on what would be logical thought or what you should do. You just can't. So it's a very dangerous hormone as well. Now, in terms of both testosterone and cortisol, what can you do to mitigate the impact? Right, so what can we do to combat our steroid hormones? Now, in terms of just knowing they exist and what they can do to your trading, gives you a head start over most traders. Most traders don't think about their impact at all. They're just basically thinking about, trading. The reason traders lose is just all to do with emotions. It's all in the brain. It isn't, is it? It's in brain and body. The two are linked. If you think about it, if you are faced with a physical threat, you cannot stop your testosterone levels rising. That's just natural within us. So how do we stop it in trading? I think the easiest way is to detach yourself from the money. The fact is, when most traders come in the markets, they're obsessed with making money. They have unrealistic profit objectives and they take too much risk. That will bring out your steroid hormones and they will impact on your trading. So what you need to do is come in, basically detach yourself from the money, treat it as a long-term business and take small risks that are not going to stress you out. This might sound like fairly obvious advice, but most traders don't follow it. Also, what you need to do is have rule-based checklists in terms of stop placements, profit objectives, trailing stops, etc. Now, in terms of cognitive biases within the brain, we've done numerous videos on all the different biases we're subject to. They can be controlled as well. Okay, now they're harder to control when you've got testosterone and cortisol running wild. I'm going to put some links to some of our videos on cognitive biases beneath this one, or you can check our playlist. But I think in terms of the impact of hormones on your brain and how they can impact on your trading, it's one of the most under-researched areas of trading. And I think, any trader, like I said, should go and read the books by Coates and Zablosky. Now, in terms of the first person who really recognised that steroid hormones were in play was probably John Maynard Keynes, who said animal spirits are at work within the market. They are within traders. Now, in terms, I'm going to finish up with some more wisdom from John Coates. Now, in terms of his book, it's called The Hour Between the Dog and the Wolf. That actually comes from medieval France, where they used to believe that the dog in the night could suddenly change into something else. The wolf, there would be a transformation. Now, in terms of traders, there can very often be a transformation when they enter the markets. Okay, and that transformation is not a good one when the steroid hormones take over. Right, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just going to play out this more wisdom from John Coates. So I said, thank you very much for watching.
The body has been beautifully constructed to optimize our performance in risk-taking. It gives us fast reactions. Reactions occur a lot faster than consciousness can keep up with. It provides us with gut feelings, which they found are not only real physiological entities, but are required for efficient decision-making. I think it's really important in this research to realize that we're dealing with the wrong model of how the body and brain cooperate. To me, it was a light bulb moment when I came back to Cambridge and started this research to realize that economics and academic finance, even psychology perhaps, and even is really fundamentally influenced by a Platonic notion of a mind-body split. Now that sounds like a really philosophical notion that wouldn't really impact concrete research, but it has a really profound impact on the way we see body and brain. I think a lot of us think that our brains can operate independently of our bodies, but we didn't evolve that way. Body and brain evolved together. They work together. When we take risks, body and brain are collaborating as functioning as a single unit. So in answer to your question, usually our body and brain are beautifully synchronized to optimize our risk-taking. And the more we've looked into the biology of risk-taking, the more we've realized that what we're uncovering is just a universal biology of risk-taking shared by athletes, by soldiers, by politicians, and by traders. And normally, as I say, that biology of risk-taking works very, very well. Just occasionally, under situations of extraordinary opportunity or threat, the biology can overwhelm us and shift our risk preferences a bit too much.